is no secret that kids share a lot of germs, especially when they're at school or daycare. And while we'd like to avoid our kids getting sick from infectious diseases in the first place, it's really important for parents to know what symptoms to be on the lookout for. And here to help us with that is Dr. Frank Bell, who specializes in pediatric infectious diseases at Providence Swedish. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for the invitation.
Well, I have to ask first and foremost, so what are pediatric infectious diseases, and particularly what is important for parents to understand about them?
I think parents need to know that pediatric infectious diseases are part of life. You know, we little ones arrive without much experience of the world and all the bugs that live in this world with us. So it's really an inevitability that kids are going to pick infections up, and that's really how we build our immunity, and that's how kids get tough and strong. So the things that parents need to look out for are things that I think most people know will maybe suggest an infection. So a high fever, an illness with rash, diarrhea or vomiting, cough, respiratory difficulty, those kinds of things. So one of our important messages for parents is that use your own instincts. You can trust your instincts. If you think something is wrong, then it's time to seek advice.
I don't even know what a rash is related to, but somewhere along the way a pediatrician told me to look out for a rash. So like every time, like, oh, there's a rash involved. And you know, and I think it's important to share this information. So let's talk about pediatric infectious diseases. Do they have seasonal patterns? And how can you prepare for changes in disease throughout the year?
For sure, it's the summer. We're all enjoying the chance to be out and about. Some of our winter blah is behind us, and so we have had a grim last 4 years, haven't we, with infections? So a lot of the respiratory viruses, cough, sneezing, and those kinds of things, we hope are a little bit gone for at least this part of the year. Summer is a time where we want to be outside, we want to be sharing food and playing in the water, and so those kinds of places are places we can catch more sort of stomach upsets and bugs. And so there are some things we can do to try and reduce that risk.
Okay, what are those things?
Well, around water, there are some instructions at most communal bathing sites. If you're out with a party and a bunch of kids and places, you can follow the instructions.
Take a shower before getting in the water.
Taking a shower before getting in the water, keep kids' diapers contained, those kinds of things. And the other fun thing about summer is eating outdoors, and some important principles about keeping food safe. We're used to a routine in our own kitchen, but if you're out on the grill and outside, important to keep meats and other vegetables separately, keep your cooked meats separately from your uncooked meats, those kinds of things.
And be careful about sharing your food, because that's how I got mono in high school. But you say that's an important thing to note. Don't share your food, really.
And if you can, hand washing and hand cleaning is really important. You could take an alcohol-based hand sanitizer out if you're at a picnic. So that's a great way of keeping yourself clean and preventing you from spreading things to other people in your group.
Really smart. So let's talk about vaccines, because I know a lot of parents, we are still concerned about that. So what recommendations do you have about vaccines, and what advice do you have for, the summer spike of COVID, for example?
Right. So going back to the pandemic, we got way behind, many of us, with visits to the doctor and getting up to date with vaccines. So summer is a good time. School is around the corner, even though we don't want to think about it, but getting prepared for school, thinking about vaccines your child needs. Summer is also the time for traveling, and if you're traveling internationally, some really important things that you might be exposed to, knowingly or unknowingly, if you're abroad. So really important to be up to date with measles, get your MMR, the whole family.
Whole family.
The whole family needs a measles jab.
Okay, because you need that herd immunity. Okay, so what advice do you have for managing, like, let's say someone gets sick now, fever or an illness at home? What precautions could be taken to avoid maybe that sickness spreading to other kids? And also, when should you worry? Like, when is it time to call the doc?
Well, I think, again, a parent can trust their instincts. You know your child, you know when something's wrong. But if your child's sick, it's a good idea to stay home, certainly with fever and cough, diarrhea, vomiting, that kind of thing. Those things are easy to spread. So stay home with the child, find some other activities you can do at home, and wait until they're clearly improving before you're out and about and mixing with people. Kids with high fevers are miserable. and that's not much fun. And you can make kids feel much more comfortable just by using a fever reducer, something like acetaminophen or ibuprofen.
And that's okay, like my grandma's always says, the fever has to burn off. It's okay to give the acetaminophen.
Sure, I think so, but a lot of it depends on just what you think is going to make your kid feel better. There's nothing wrong with having a fever. It doesn't have to come down, but I think for most parents, having your kid with a fever that's reduced is going to make them feel much more cheerful, much more likely to get the fluids they need that we want to push them in. So it's about the comfort of your child. If it seems to help, it's a good idea, but there's no need to push the antibiotics, the fever medicines, just because there's a fever. But fever and misery, you can do something about that.
Such great advice. Thank you so much for coming by and chatting with us about this.
This portion of New Day Northwest is sponsored by Providence Swedish.